We got to talk about some final matches here in the group stage of Challenge Cup. Got to talk about the draw dance in this one. We had several draws take place throughout final match day of the group stage for Challenge Cup again, which also came into play for the results of the semifinalists not being determined until that final match on Sunday evening. But I want to start with North Carolina Courage versus the Washington Spirit. Because listen, we're talking about predictions that we made. I think I had this one as a draw, Lisa, right?
Let me double check. I'm sorry. Yes, you had a draw. So
I had a draw in this one.
I had North Carolina winning this one. It was identical scoreline to the last time these two teams played, 2-2.
Listen, was curious how this one was going to play out. I'm glad that we got another sort of high kind of octane type of match in terms of the double scoreline, 4 goals in this one, splitting it 2-2, like you said. You know what, Lisa? I'm very impressed by these two teams out of the East. They've had a very impressive Challenge Cup, and we're both going to get to see them in the semifinals now. So because of how the results shook out.
I am so impressed with these two teams in this East region, and I'm really happy that both of them get to go through to the semifinals because I think it's well-deserved from both of these sides. If we had OL Reign and Portland going through to the semifinal, I would have been fine with it. They had a good, strong Challenge Cup, but I am way happier that it's North Carolina and Washington. Yeah. Again, I have no affiliation with either of these sides, but I think that the overall play that we have seen throughout the Challenge Cup from North Carolina, who started so strong, almost this dark horse in the Challenge Cup, and continued that pressure, continued to score goals, continued to be a threat and a presence throughout this Challenge Cup. And a team like Washington Spirit that maybe didn't get off to the strongest start in their opening Challenge Cup games. However, they turned it on quickly, and their progression over the last few weeks was incredibly high. They have the steepest climb in their progression and how well they've done from their first game up until this last group stage game against North Carolina Courage. You mentioned the goals that happened, 4 goals in this game, 2-2, 3 penalty kicks called in this match. This was the weekend of penalty kicks. We have to talk about it. Only 2 of them being buried in this match. Dabinia gets the first one for North Carolina. Dabinia gets a second one that is saved by Kingsbury, Washington Spirit goalkeeper. Fantastic job from her. You get past her once. You get past her twice. Shame on Kingsbury. She didn't let that happen. Then a penalty kick awarded to Ashley Hatch. She gets that one buried for the equalizer for Washington Spirit in the 75th minute. But this game was very complete, I'm going to say, because Ashley Hatch scoring the opening goal in the 15th minute. This was a good goal by Ashley Hatch. I was happy to see her get 2 goals in this game, honestly, because that's what I want to see from Ashley Hatch, who's gotten time with the national team, who needs to be that striker that other teams fear. So she gets the opening goal. Then North Carolina able to get the penalty kick right in the stoppage time of the first half. And then Berkeley getting the 52nd minute goal. It looked like to be the game winner for North Carolina Courage for a while in this match, as Ashley Hatch didn't get the second penalty kick until the 75th minute. But this was really such a good game, such a really, really fun game to watch. Caroline Dabinia, holy cow, this duo of the Brazilian internationals for North Carolina. I'm very excited to see what kind of chaos they can cause in the NWSL.
Listen, we got to talk about it. Caroline getting her first Challenge Cup start did not disappoint. Listen, we can call it hype or not, but I've been hyped about this play. I remember when they announced her signing in the off season. You don't know what to anticipate because you're talking about a young player, B, a young international player, and you hear about sometimes the transition, coming from one style of play or from one type of league into a new league, right? And with NWSL, a lot of it is, you talk about how it's very much a transitional league. You hear a lot about, for some players wanting to adapt to, the pace of the league, the physicality of the league, and watching Caroline go out there and do her take care of her business, handle it, it was such a joy for me personally to watch. She is 100% going to be a problem on the pitch, and I am here for it 100%. What a way to close out that first half, quite frankly. Just relentless on the ball, and then winning this penalty kick in the box. Davinia getting up to step up, slot it away. Loving the samba goal celly afterwards. It was delightful. More of it. Put it on, repeat for me. Again, another one of my favorite songs. I loved it. But I think with that moment, and then having the courage go ahead on this Berkeley banger just after, just into the second half, they had an opportunity to extend this lead. Lisa, you had Caroline handling the business, getting another penalty kick, forcing a foul in the box. But then you had Davinia get up and step up and take this penalty kick again. And Kingsbury making the save in this one. Yes, absolutely. But a little bit of a questionable penalty, I think, for me, for somebody like Davinia. Maybe it was because she got asked to take it again. Again, we're unclear how, the game day decisions are there. Maybe you have the scenario where you're like, okay, if we get a penalty kick, Davinia's going to be the one who takes it. Is there a scenario in which, the coaches are like, if we get a second one, here's what we're going to do. Like, that doesn't often happen in NWSL, right? And in this match, there were 3 penalty kick opportunities in this one, got 2 for Carolina and then one with Hatch. So I'm just kind of like, this is a little bit galaxy for me, but it happened, and unfortunately we're unable to extend that league. At that point, it would have been 3-1, but it ends up shaking out 3-2 or 2-2. Excuse me.
However, Caroline could have had another goal in the opening minutes of this match. She ricochets one off the woodwork. This player is so fun to watch. We talked about it in the Houston-Louisville match, that defensive errors and then capitalization. We saw that in this match. The opening goal from Ashley Hatch, it was a defensive error in the back by North Carolina trying to build out, and having Ashley Hatch be that really high counter press player for Washington Spirit. She's able to pick off the pass, and really, really great decision by Hatch to just bury this shot right after she picks it off. And then even the Berkeley shot for North Carolina coming in the second half, it was a defensive error from Washington Spirit trying to play out of the back. Berkeley picks it up, and she makes no mistake about it. She gets her head up, and it's a beautiful shot. So the defensive errors are honestly one of my biggest takeaways from this weekend. And based on all of the penalty kicks, 3 of them called in this match, I think 6 over the entire weekend, 6 games, 6 of them called. So those are things that I want every single team to tighten up defensively, not causing penalty kicks unless it's necessary, right? But were a major accident. But some of these that we saw, the Rocky Rodriguez penalty kick that she pulled against Portland or against Kristen Press, like that was not necessary. That was not necessary to happen. So those are things that I really want tightened up heading into the regular season across the board for all teams.
I'm with you 100%. Let's stay in the East for a second, Lisa. Let's talk about Orlando Pride versus New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. New Jersey, New York, the hosts in this one, shakes out to a 1-1 draw. Again, we're talking about the draw dance in this one, but Orlando Pride getting on the board first in this one early. 10-minute goal from Gunny Johnsdotter. Shout out to Johnsdotter, who we had as a guest on Attacking Third not too long ago. Go check out the interview that we had with her ahead of this match. Delightful to see her getting on the scoreline. I don't know. I'm going to start it, Lisa. I'm starting the myth.
Oh, I'm here for this.
Listen, if you come on Attacking Third and you get an interview, you're going to get a goal.
You're going to score. You're going to score. As soon as she scored, I was like, yes, we've got the mojo.
I love that energy. I love it so much. Listen, off a set piece, delightful opening goal to happen in this one. I think, again, this was a game and 2 teams that we had highlighted in our preview, that there were a number of games this weekend from teams that were going to be participating in it that we knew didn't necessarily have the stake of advancing into a semifinal. But that didn't mean that we didn't want to see some strong finishes from certain teams. And I think for a team like Orlando Pride, again, just thinking a little bit back about the interview that we had with John's daughter, was it really was about that. It's about kind of looking ahead as much as you can, because the things that have happened to your team are things that are kind of out of your control, and the things that you can control are on the pitch, right? Losing big players like Marta, Sydney Leroux navigating injury, Erin McLeod having to navigate some injury. They had to shake up and make some adjustments, right? Especially in a position like goalkeeper, and losing somebody like Erin McLeod. But we're watching this match take place, and you're taking note. Kaylee Collins getting the start in net for Orlando Pride, having a good game in this one, kind of holding it down, locking things down there, in net with the back line, and kind of getting adjusted to things. But we're talking about going from one game, talking about penalties, going into another game that had another one for New Jersey getting the equalizer in this one, thanks to Christy Mewis putting away a penalty.
I agree. I mean, this game was, I wasn't surprised, honestly, that we got this draw in this. I had a draw coming into this one. You had Gotham winning this match. Those were our predictions. Yeah. But this was a rough game for Gotham.
Another tough one. Yeah.
This was a rough game. Like, I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing from Gotham. I'm not impressed.
I think in the preview, we said we wanted a good 90-minute performance.
Yeah, we did not get that.
We just didn't get it again.
We did not get that. Come on, Gotham, are you listening? Because we're telling you what to do here.
They're probably like, yeah, we're listening. Shut up.
I mean, honestly, I want to know what they're working on in training. Not that it's not working by any means, but they just need a little bit more, like they need a shock before the game to get that fire under them, to be able to play and compete for 90 minutes. They couldn't possess the ball. They kept giving it away. They were stringing 2-3 passes together before it was a giveaway or a sloppy pass or a hospital ball that Orlando was able to pick off and then go into the attack. You're right, though. Toni Presley, she fouls Ifeoma Onumonu and draws the penalty kick, and Christy Mewis buries it. So that's great, right? You have a penalty kick taker, but Christy Mewis isn't giving enough in the midfield for Gotham. She's not being that player that is changing the game for Gotham. And that's why they drafted her. That's why they traded for Christy Mewis. They need her to be that player. And frankly, she's not doing it. Gotham, they're falling flat. I'm not surprised at the outcome of this game.
No, it shouldn't be shocking at this point, because we've had 5 other games to take a look at from Gotham. I mean, when we previewed this final match week and we saw this matchup, we said Gotham has to show something, and quite frankly, they just didn't. And then when we're looking back into further recaps or previews of Challenge Cup, I mean, my goodness, when we did our Challenge Cup preview, just jumping into this tournament, had Gotham picked as a team to maybe come out and win the East, that did not happen. So there's just some disconnect that's happening here. And yeah, you could talk about, you had somebody like Margaret Purse unavailable for this match. And you hear in post game, from head coach Scott Parkinson that, if this was a regular season match, this was maybe a game that Purse would have started. Okay. But that doesn't, necessarily remove the prior results that have already happened in Challenge Cup. There's been a disconnect. And there's not one thing I think that you can maybe point your finger on when you're looking at Gotham and some of their performances in this one. So we're looking at the East, and we talked about that as well in the power rankings a little bit, Lisa. We talked about in the East how there's this weird argument of like, oh, you have to look at the level of competition in some of these groups, and the East is just like really, really hard. And I would say that you maybe echo that for a region like the West Division.
Yes. No, I don't like that argument. I honestly am not.
I don't agree with it. You're talking about the West having 2 expansion sides in it, and then you're talking about the East that have definitive franchises in it. But when you're looking at Gotham and when you're looking at Orlando, they did not have good Challenge Cups. So you're talking about a group that had 2 teams that were kind of the heavyweights. And then you have Orlando, and then you have Gotham, who have obviously struggled a bit. So this isn't again, this isn't something that you can maybe look at and say like where, like point your finger at and say this is the problem and this is the area that they got to do. So it's just it's concerning. I'm not going to act like it's not. I think there's that level where people look at Challenge Cup still kind of unsure on how to take it. But I think what we're seeing out of Challenge Cup is, at the very least, we're seeing the beginning stages of teams and their identities.
Yes.
And we're seeing the beginning stages of what these teams want to present to their opposition. And we did not see that in this Challenge Cup during Gotham FC, a team that I think a lot of folks were looking at to build off of what they did last year. And they have come out pretty flat in the Challenge Cup. So now they have to look ahead to the regular season, and we'll see what happens. But if if this is the continuity that we're going to see from Gotham, it's going to be a long season for this franchise.
It's going to be really long. We just need a little bit more from Gotham. But overall, a 1-1 draw with Orlando Pride to close out Challenge Cup play. I think Orlando's happy with this, getting on the board first, and then conceding the penalty kick in the stoppage time of the first half. Just defensive errors that Orlando needs to clean up. But otherwise, Amanda Cromwell should be pretty happy. Scoring first against a team like Gotham, for Orlando getting a goal in this match, and tying 1-1. Not bad. Not a bad look for Orlando.
We'll see how they shake out during the regular season, because now they got to look ahead. Final match, though, with this one, and another one that didn't have, wasn't without some drama. We got to talk about San Diego Wave FC versus OL Reign, and we got to do our best to try to talk about it, Lisa, because quite frankly, just like so many others, there was about 20 minutes of this game that we were unable to view. There were technical difficulties that took place, and there was a debut goal from Ali Watt that nearly everybody missed, but thankfully there is some footage out there now of it. Not the best, but we could see Ali Watt getting a goal. Tough. I hate that we have to come on here and start off talking about this game by talking about a bad production of it.
Yes, honestly, it pains me a little bit to say that, because it's true. That's what happened. I mean, watching the game at first, I have some spotty internet sometimes in my apartment, and I was like, "What's happening?" And
you think it's you.
Yeah, you always think it's you. It's not you, it's me kind of situation, and that's not what it was. And I've heard and I've read that at this stadium for San Diego, they've had broadcast issues in the past based on where the cameras are, the electrical lines, and how they run. For behind the scenes for people, I'm sure a lot of people know this, but production crews get to stadiums 5 hours before a match starts, 6 hours before they're supposed to go on air, which is about an hour before. Usually they have everything done by an hour before. So I can assure you that everything was fine before the game, and everything was fine leading up to it. Even in the first 5 minutes, it was fine. And that's when the cameras cut out and something happened, technical difficulties that happened. You do have to give a shout out to the people, Women Kick Balls.
Shout out to Jackie Gutierrez, man.
Who I was following, because I didn't know what was happening, and we miss an opening goal. It's a shame. For those that don't know, the broadcasters on that game were not in the stadium. So it's not like they could just show you a blank picture and you could still hear the broadcast. They were not on site. They are also calling games off of the same camera angles that you see at home. It's difficult as a broadcaster to do that, but so they have no insight. Mike Watts, the commentator, did a fantastic job on that game. Once they came back on air, just saying, we're sorry for the technical difficulties. He's still trying to figure out what happened. He can't go off of what people are tweeting. You need direct confirmation from the league, from the teams, to say exactly what happened, who scored the goal, kind of how that all went down. But it's a shame. It's a disappointment, and it's a shame.
You know, it's a bad night on the league's production side of things when they have to, when their social admin has to go out and retweet footage from, a different account. Shout out to the Diaspora podcast for having some footage of that. And you have the league socials also amplifying their tweets and their footage of it. It's again, it's frustrating to even have to hop on this live with you and have all our listeners here, and this is what we have to talk about to start off this game. And it made it hard to sort of maybe watch the remainder of this game, and even try to, like, there was a penalty moment in this game as well. Tough to sort of see the call in the action. I believe it was a handball that was called. That was, I think, kind of questionable with the angles of it that we were given and that we were able to see. Just kind of looked like just a tough call, just a really tough call. I just didn't think it was an unnatural position in terms of the handball and everything. But, it led to the opportunity, for OL Reign. And then we had a match that ended up closing out as a draw 1-1. I think holistically talking about things, we know coming out of this match now, Lisa, is that OL Reign going to be in the semifinals.
Yeah.
And San Diego Wave, one of these teams, I think, again, closing out their competition, their tournament with a strong performance.
Yes.
I think that they have had some really good bright spots throughout the Challenge Cup. Maybe they don't have all the wins and the goals and everything like that, but you can see within some of these individual performances from this Wave side and some of the tactics that Casey Stoney is rolling out with them, you could see the buy-in. Yeah. And I've appreciated what we've seen. I'm curious as to what this team is going to look like in a long grind of a regular season.
I agree. I mean, the goal coming from Alex Morgan, the third stoppage time first half penalty kick that we had this weekend, and she buries it. But the growth from San Diego, we saw a lot of growth from the expansion sides this weekend. Best weekend in the Challenge Cup for Angel City and for San Diego. A lot of improvements coming. The fight that they gave to OL Reign, even the on-field battles between Kelsey Turnbow and Jess Fishlock, like that rivalry is really good. That's so good to have, yelling at each other and things like that. Honestly, I love that. That's what this is all about, to be honest. I have high hopes for San Diego moving forward. Angel City as well. I think the way that this Challenge Cup group stage ended is on a really big positive for a lot of these teams. San Diego, Angel City, OL Reign, North Carolina, Washington, just really, really nice job from these squads heading into the semifinals of the NWSL Challenge Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was a game, despite the early technical difficulties, that you're taking a look at and you're trying to still find those potential bright spots, I think, for a team like San Diego. And then for OL Reign, you're looking for the areas in which they have their strengths, right? And how you're going to continue to capitalize on those. But for whatever reason in this match, whether it was partially the large chunk of technical difficulties on the stream and then later down the line into the match, unfortunately not really seeing that. We saw some tough moments in terms of some moments in the match kind of getting chippy, some tough fouls, and some unfortunate moments on the pitch. It kind of maybe led to some boiling blood, into the final minutes of the game. I mean, we saw Bethany. Well, we didn't really see Bethany Balser because this was part of the moment that was not on the stream. But Bethany Balser had to come out of this game due to a tough challenge. There was a very kind of, I think I would almost venture to say, rare moment. We don't often see this from somebody like Kaylin Sheridan, but off her line, out of the box, and then this collision, this challenge between Sheridan and Balser, and that obviously labored for Balser throughout the match, and eventually they had to use an early sub for this. So I'm sure we'll get an update further down the line, because this is a team that punched their ticket to the semifinals. So we'll see Balser's availability further down when we get closer to the semifinals. But yeah, just a very, very strange, very weird energy around this game for a number of reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I like that you called that out, because the Sheridan slide that happened while we were off air, so you can find that on social media, honestly, on Twitter. But Sheridan trying to play the ball out of the back and miss hitting it. It's going to Balser, and then Sheridan sliding into Balser, a rough tackle. There was no foul called, and that's how Allie Watt got her first NWSL goal and the opening goal for OL Reign in this match. But yeah, it was a mistake by Sheridan. Then I saw some people talking about the wetness of the ground. I'm not sure the conditions in San Diego that night or the field conditions because I couldn't see it due to the technical difficulties. But we wanted to talk about it and we wanted to address it because these things happen. It looked like it was an on-site issue. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating here. I wasn't there and I wasn't involved in the broadcast this weekend, but they're trying and we wanted to address it. So we'll give you the info that we have and our knowledge on the situation when we have it.
Teams moving on. North Carolina Courage, OL Reign, Kansas City Current, Washington Spirit, Kansas City versus North Carolina. And then you're going to have Spirit versus, Kansas City Courage versus OL Reign, and then you're going to have NC Courage versus Washington Spirit. All the matches are going to be taking place on May 4th. Now, for folks who don't know this, the regular season will be kicking off while Challenge Cup semifinals continue. You've got some issues here that we got to close out with, though, Lisa. Again, I hate that we're closing out the episode talking about complications, but you have seeded semifinalists, Reign with the opportunity to host, but won't be able to host a semifinal at Lumen Field. The Sounders have a CONCACAF Champions League match on May 4th, and Audi Field for the Spirit are unable to host because there is a Project Play Summit event that is going to be held by the Aspen Institute. So we know now that this semifinal will actually be played at Segra Field. So some interesting things already shaking out here for these semifinals on May 4th.
Yeah, kind of how this is unfolding. OL Reign being the number 1 seed, they are supposed to host, and because they can't, it then goes to their competition, the number 4 seed in Washington Spirit. They can't even host at Audi Field, and Segra Field has had some issues. Last year, a game just a few days before between Houston and Washington Spirit, supposed to be played at Segra, gets moved to Houston because Segra wasn't up to it. Now, they also talked about Lumen Field, the other field for OL Reign being played, but because it's a baseball stadium and now it's in the NWSL CBA, that teams can't play at a baseball stadium, that OL Reign lose their home field advantage for this first Challenge Cup semifinal match. And they'll travel to the East Coast. Luckily, though, regular season starts. They play Washington Spirit in the regular season. Hopefully, OL Reign just stays on the East Coast. They don't travel. They find a good hotel to stay in, some good food to eat, good field to practice on, and then they continue their Challenge Cup play in DC.
It's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on, pay attention to, see what happens. Listen, we're also going to have to pay attention to the regular season because there's going to be some things that we're talking about in terms of preparing for that and then keeping an eye on semifinals and how the Challenge Cup will close out. Because after May 4th, we will have 2 finalists that will be going head-to-head on May 7th. You can catch the Challenge Cup final on May 7th on CBS.